Welcome to Thriving Entrepreneur with your host, Steve Kidd, third-generation minister and 30-year business coach. Listen in as amazing, world-changing authors, speakers, and coaches share their struggles and victories. And hear from best-selling authors' insight into how you too can live your life as a thriving entrepreneur.
This is Steve. Welcome to Thriving Entrepreneur. Thanks for being with me here today as we talk about competence to thrive. What is the thing that you do in this world, and are you confident about it? You know, competence can take you so far down the path. Just being confident that you can do it. There's an old saying that says whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. And that absolutely is a big piece of winning in life. Really excited to have you here with us today. I really appreciate when you take the time to be able to spend time with us here on the radio show and really enjoy the part of your life that allows you to thrive. I'm so glad to have you here with us. I appreciate you. And today we want to help you find the competence to thrive. What does that mean? What is competence really? Competence is not arrogance. It's not cockiness. It's about knowing what you know. I've said on the show before, it's been a little while though, in case you've never heard it, or as a repeat to you, true humility is a right perspective of yourself. That means understanding the things that you're good at and being able to acknowledge those just as much as you understand the things that you're bad at. To deflect and to be demeaning to yourself is actually the other side of the coin of conceit. It's not you being a humble person by diminishing yourself. When you're good at something, just simply saying, you know what, I'm really good at that particular thing, that is really, truly being humble. Because the truly humble person can also admit the things that they're not good at. And that's where humility really just takes its place in our life and really helps us to thrive. And that is what I mean when I talk about the competence to thrive. Knowing who you are, what you do, and being able to really exude competence in that you that is you and live the life that you know is going to make all the difference in the world for yourself and for the people you're meant to serve. And I can't think of any better way to live as a thriving entrepreneur. We've got 3 great guests. Let's jump right in to our first guest here on Thriving Entrepreneur. Join me in welcoming Daniel Shuloff. Hey, Daniel, how you doing today?
Hey, Steve, I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing really great, thanks. First
Good.
off, tell us just a little bit about you and how you show up in the world.
Well, I own a dog food company. In 2018, I founded a company called Keto Natural Pet Foods, and we make a unique product. We make pet food without the carbohydrate, which sounds like everybody's making it, but in reality, it's really uncommon. And so we do a bunch of things to help people understand what's healthy for their dog and for their cat, and a bunch of activism to improve the pet food industry. But at the end of the day, we're a dog food company, and running that is most of my work.
I love that. So help us understand the kind of things that, I mean, some people maybe don't even know what keto is, but what kind of things are and aren't included in what you do food-wise?
Yeah, so we make kibble style dog food, which is like the scoop and serve type it's like dry dog food. And most brands, for reasons that are, well outside the scope of this interview, are kind of get away with using an obscene amount of carbohydrate in their recipes. And making kibble dog food is kind of like making little nubs of like meaty bread. And if you've ever tried to make bread, you need flour. And so like for a long time, pet food industry kind of believed that you got to use carbohydrate, either flour or potato or something like that, to get the dough to hold together when you heat it up. And so, most pet food brands, even the fancy stuff, is like, I can't tell you how often I have the conversation where I'm talking to a dog owner and I said, well, what do you feed your dog? And they go, oh, well, we feed the good stuff. And I have the unpleasant, you know, role of informing them like, well, geez, your product is actually 45% carbohydrate. And there's a variety of reasons why many brands can persuade consumers they're healthy. Despite that, at Keto Natural, we believe that carbohydrate is really unhealthy for dogs. And so our products are kind of very low in carbohydrate content, very high in animal-based protein.
So the carbohydrates would be things like the rice, and the other kind of fillers and stuff like that, or are there things I'm not thinking of that
Yeah,
are
it's like they either come from some kind of grain or another, like wheat, flour, rice, barley, or they come from class of plants called tubers. So that's like potatoes, sweet potatoes, those kind of things. So it's like the products of like, industrial agriculture, that kind of stuff.
okay? So I'm looking here on your website, and you have chicken-based products and salmon-based is at least what's coming up on this page that I happen to be looking at. So is it just, you chopped up a fish and you put it in there? Well, you dried it and then put it in there, or is there more to it?
Yeah, making kibble, there's more to it than that. It's like you use the kind of machinery that's used to make a bunch of human use products too. It's called extrusion technology. And what happens in essence, simplifying here, is you mix a bunch of dry and wet ingredients together in a dough, and then you squeeze that dough out through like little custom shaped nozzles, and it slices the dough that gets squeezed out into individual kibbles. And so extrusion technology is also used to make human use products like pasta and like energy bars. So it's like, think of a big barrel that's full of like ingredients that have been heated up enough that they're all mixing together. And then we squeeze them out through little nozzles and cut them. And then you dry it out to make it shelf stable. So it pulls something like 90% of the moisture out of the product. So again, not too different from how you make pasta. And then you put it in a bag, and it, without the moisture in there, it holds really well. It makes a really convenient product too. The thing that makes us unique is that unlike pasta and unlike other kibbles, we do it without including much carbohydrate at all. And that's hard to do. Like if you don't use carbohydrate, your pasta, if you try to make pasta without flour, there's nothing much there to make. If you try to make kibble without it, it's hard too. It doesn't want to hold together when you heat it up. And so our innovations have come around with coming up with a recipe that gets the product to hold together during that process without the carbohydrate.
That's so awesome. So lately, and I don't know if it's the stations I'm watching or if it's just a new trend, but there are a lot of several different companies I can think of that have a more wet style. You keep it in the refrigerator type of, and some of them don't even call it dog food, but it's for your dog.
Yeah.
What are the goods and bads of what you do versus what they're doing, or give me some insight into that.
Yeah, sure. So I founded my company because a few years before I founded it, I finished work on and published a book. The book is called Dogs, Dog Food, and Dogma, and it's about nutritional science in the doggy world. More particularly, why do so many dogs and cats in the country wind up obese when you'd think it would be the easiest thing in the world to control? And the project of writing that book and doing all the research underpinning it is what led me around to be such an advocate that dogs shouldn't eat much in the way of carbohydrate. So all that is a long-winded way of saying until we were founded, remember how I was telling you it's like hard to make kibble without carbohydrate? So as of like 2016, if you believed, as I believe, that the evidence is persuasive enough that carbohydrate content should be kind of your number one issue when choosing a dog food, you had to choose a style of food that wasn't kibble. Just like nobody had figured out a way to do it without carbohydrate yet. And so that opens up, there's like a bunch of different types of options there. Some are in a can, So they're in a can, there's moisture in there. It doesn't have to hold together the way kibble has to hold together because the can prevents it from spoiling. There are raw dog food products that are sold too, and they're either frozen or freeze dried. And in those cases, again, they're being kept frozen so they don't spoil. So there's moisture in there and they don't have to hold together the way that kibble does. And so plenty of those actually don't contain much carbohydrate. And so prior to founding my company, that's what I would recommend. People would read my book, talk to me and say, well, what should I feed my dog? And I'd say, like, you should feed them in all likelihood, raw, frozen or freeze dried formula, because that's the only way you're going to be able to get the carbohydrate out of their diet. And that should be the most important thing. So, which is to say that there are plenty of really of products that have excellent nutritional profiles for dogs that are frozen and freeze dried raw, because with those products, you don't have to use carbohydrate. However, two big caveats. Number one is just because a product is raw or fresh or in a can does not inherently make it any more healthful than a kibble product. You have to look for the ones that actually contain the nutritional content that you want, which is to say a lot of protein and little carbohydrate, because carbohydrate is really inexpensive. And so all pet food brands, including probably the ones that you're referring to when you say, I've seen this a lot these days, have a huge incentive to get as much carbohydrate in there as they can. And so you can certainly find, and without naming any names, they are the more high profile ones, fresh food for dogs that you keep in your refrigerator that is 30+% carbohydrate. And so it's not just as simple as saying, well, it's this style of dog food, therefore it's healthy. It's like, what is the nutritional profile? And some of them are okay, and some of them are not okay. And then the second, like, big caveat is that those products, whether they're high protein, low carb, or otherwise, those fresh diets and those raw diets are phenomenally expensive compared with kibble. Kibble's so affordable that it's like anything else, even though it might not be like quantitatively that expensive, like it's 5 to 8 times as much. A calorie of fresh dog food is typically 5 to 8 times as much as a calorie of kibble. So like if you have a little dog, that might be the difference between like getting a cup of coffee at McDonald's and a cup of coffee at Starbucks or something like that. But like, I have a Saint Bernard. He weighs up 160 pounds. And so 5 to 8 times, if I'm going to go from kibble to raw, it's like increasing my daily dog food spend from like, $8 to $40 or something like that. And it's just a non-starter. And so for a lot of people, it's not a good fit. And so we occupy a niche that's like, well, I would feed one of these products if I could afford it, but I can't. So this provides the same nutritional profile, but in a kibble.
I'm really basically just interviewing you so that I can take better care of my dog. I mean,
You have a dog?
oh yeah, absolutely. A little, she'll be
Right.
10 actually next month. She's a little 10-pound Yorkie, because I made her fat basically.
Well, I'll tell you, it's an important thing, and it's never too late to take the weight off them. I'll say that's literally, you can check out my book. Like I said, it's called Dogs, Dog Food, and Dogma, and it's pretty squarely focused on the subject of obesity. Why keeping a dog lean is so important. What, within the context of other health issues, how much you should be focused on that. And then it reviews all the science around like what makes dogs fat. And, the simple answer, if you don't feel like reading a book, is the reality is that it's dietary carbohydrate, that you cannot make a dog fat. There are a bunch of ways to take weight off a dog that's already fat. You can exercise it a ton. You can just stop, starve the animal, or you can reduce its carbohydrate intake. But you cannot make a dog overweight, obese without carbohydrate. It's a necessary ingredient in it. So if you decide you're persuaded by that line of thought, there are all kinds of choices for you, going from our kibble all the way up to like raw or fresh diets. You got a 10-pound dog, you probably afford all kinds of fancy stuff.
Yeah, and she's totally worth it, but that's a whole different story. Yeah, I was just, I mean, I'm looking at your book and your website and different stuff while you're talking here. So, one of the veterinarians that I took my dog to was talking about, and actually had us supplementing with, again, I won't say the name of another company's dog food, but, with the dry stuff, with some of the wet stuff that you keep in the refrigerator,
Mhm.
because of something to do with concern over the dry food and her ability with her teeth and stuff like that. Is there any that kind of concern with your food being dry?
I suppose that it's possible that a dog could have teeth that are in a condition that they really need soft food. Their dog, lost a bunch of teeth, or they have a lot of tooth decay, and it's just painful to chew stuff that's dry, that's, in a nugget of kibble. That's certainly a possibility. I can't speak to your specific dog, but that's not an unrealistic thing. Our kibble's like one of the like things we do to try to use as little carbohydrate as possible is that you like by making the actual nuggets, the individual kibbles, as small as possible, that helps you use less carbohydrate. Like you need less force to bind it together. And so our kibbles are really small compared, like I have this huge St. Bernard, but we have these really little kibbles and you just eat, you know, there's just more of these small kibbles in every cup of it or whatever. But that might be a relevant thing. Like if your dog is just really small, she just has really small teeth, it might be the case that like a big nugget is just too much for her, that a littler one might be easier, but that's sort of speculative.
Mm, I love that. So, tell us, how can we check out your product and be able to buy it, of course, most importantly.
Yeah, I mean, well, frankly, I would say most importantly is people can learn a lot about it if they go to our website, which is ketonaturalpetfoods.com. We work as hard as we can to put evidence-based information out there. There's like a big part of my book is highlighting, the big part of it is just like the science of like this study says this study says that about what's healthy for dogs. But another big part of it is like, to my eyes, when you look at what the evidence actually says and what you hear from folks who are authorities in the veterinary nutrition space, those things don't line up. And why is that? Why is it that there are all these studies that seem to suggest that the problem of obesity is a problem of carbohydrate, but you don't hear that so much? And the answer, as I try to explain to the best of my ability in the book, is that there's a kind of a cultural problem here too, which is that pet food companies, most of which have a very strong vested interest in promoting the healthfulness of carbohydrate, play a huge role in shaping what the like public understands about, important issues of veterinary nutritional science. And so as part of the effort to try to improve the industry, we talk to our customers and potential customers like they're big boys and girls. They get the evidence themselves, they get serious topics. We have every video and white paper and podcast episode under the sun on our website. So you can learn a lot about, and you can judge for yourself whether you find the evidence to be persuasive. But like I said, ketonaturalpetfoods.com, all that stuff is free. You can find my book on all the major online, Amazon and Barnes and Noble, places like that. It's called Dogs, Dog Food, and Dogma. And yeah, those would be probably the two places where I'd send people.
Absolutely, I love that. Well, Danny, thank you so much for what you're doing.
Sure.
I really appreciate it, and I look forward to checking out more on your website and seeing what I need to do for my poor little doggy.
Don't worry, she's a 10-year-old dog. Like part of my head there goes, you know, it's never too late to make, changes add up over time. It's just like, it's never too late. On the other hand, like dog's 10 years old. That's not a young animal. You've done a good job. I wouldn't feel, don't say poor dog, like she's a good girl and she's doing fine. You're doing fine. But yeah,
She's an awesome pup.
yeah, good, man.
Absolutely. Well,
Yeah,
Daniel, thanks so
you can
much for
always hit me
spending
up with
some.
questions. Like you know, respond to a lot. I have a lot of folks that are asking me about dog food stuff all the time. So if you ever have any questions, by all means, reach out. I'll be happy to talk to you more.
Thank you so much. Daniel, thanks so
Yeah,
much for spending some time with us here on the show today.
sure thing, Steve. Take care.
Every time I feed my dog now, I think about this pet food, and I really do think I'm going to try it out. Our pets, they're part of our family. They're the little ones that we love, and they really do deserve to have the best nutrition possible. What a great way to confidently, transfer from where you were to where you need to be, to go from being a lawyer to being somebody who puts their love into loving their pets, into a business that really makes a difference, that really only they can make. What a great way to live as a thriving entrepreneur. Let's take our first commercial break here on Thriving Entrepreneur. Don't go away. Hi, my name is Steve Kidd. I am a third-generation minister, an international best-selling author of multiple books, and I help people write, publish, and market their books to bestseller. In fact, there are literally thousands of people that have used the system that I created to be able to write, publish, and market their books, and now they're best-selling authors. And you're next. I just wanted to come on for a minute, say hi to you, tell you a little bit about me, introduce myself, and tell you I know the world is waiting on your message, and I would be so honored to be part of sharing your message with the world. Go to AskSteveKidd.com and schedule a time to talk today. This is Steve. Welcome back. Thanks for listening to Thriving Entrepreneur today as we talk about confidence to thrive. What are you confident about? What are the things that you know, and how can you then share them with the world in a confident manner? And when you do that, how much boldness, confidence, and success can you experience? How much can you thrive in all that you do? You need to have that bold, daring confidence to be truly humble, but really, truly powerful and effective. And that will allow you to live and to thrive in all that you do. With that said, let's jump in to our next guest. Join me in welcoming Emily Jansen. Hey, Emily, how you doing today?
I'm great, Steve. How are you?
I'm doing really good, thanks. So first off, tell us a little bit about you and how you show up in the world.
Yeah, of course. Thank you for having me. So, my name is Emily Jansen, and I am a keynote speaker, author, podcast host. And the way that came about was a long, twisty, windy road that started with being too shy to order a pizza to 15 years later, I became the general manager of a AAA baseball team. I was the first woman in 20 years to have that role. And with that role came an opportunity to lead women in sports, get out there and use a microphone and use my voice to carve out space for myself and other leaders, which led to starting a podcast, Leadership is Female, where I interview female executives around the globe, which led to a TEDx talk that in 1 year gained 3 million views and was the number 12 talk of the 16,000 uploaded to the YouTube channel in 2022. And that talk was on confidence. Turns out confidence is a skill set that many, many people would like to grow, myself included. So sharing my story and the stories of other successful leaders around the world who have grown their confidence and achieved their goals has been a message that has resonated with Fortune 500 companies who bring me in to do keynote speaking, and then ultimately led to writing a book on that very topic so that I could expand that teaching and create a more confident, goal-directed world of people, employees, mothers, goal achievers. It's been a wild ride, and it's been a ton of fun to be able to come out and serve in this way.
Oh, I love that. So talk to us about confidence. I mean, what's the secret between a person who, just, how it is. There's just some kids that are just confident in everything and others that hide behind their parents constantly. I mean, what makes the difference?
Yeah. So here's the thing is it starts with this myth. The myth is that you're born with it or you're not. And that's just simply not true. Confidence is a skill set. It is an attitude that we can change and grow over time by practicing the right behaviors to put us outside our comfort zone and then gain our confidence in those experiences. So let's put it this way. When I was in high school, I mentioned I was too shy to order a pizza. I was that girl that hid behind my mom's leg. I wouldn't make a phone call to a stranger. I was from a very small town. I was very comfortable living in my bubble. And when I went away to college, I went to a Big Ten university, and all of a sudden I was a girl from a 3,000 person town into a atmosphere where there were more than 3,000 people just in my class at school. It was a wild experience. And I spent most of my time crying in my dorm room the whole first month of school, too shy to go out and partake in early freshman partying. I was too shy to go to class, let alone speak up. And then one day it kind of clicked for me where I said to myself, like, why are you here? You know, you're one step away from calling your parents and asking them to pick you up, but you decided to come here. Why was that? And it was because of the dreams that I had for myself in the future. I wanted to be a successful executive one day. That was my goal. And I didn't know how to get there, but I knew that I couldn't get there by continuing to behave in the manner in which I was, which was a very shy person who wouldn't try new things because it was outside of my comfort zone and felt too scary. So I started one behavior at a time, putting myself out there, and I grew my confidence over time to achieve the goals that I had set for myself in my life. And so what I do is I help people do that same thing. I teach them strategies to practice the behaviors that will lead to them to become a more confident person.
I love it. And so you have your podcast, Leadership is Female. Is that the name of your book as well?
So the podcast is Leadership is Female, and the book is called Let's Go, A Guide to Increasing Your Confidence.
Tell us a little bit about what we can learn in the book.
Yeah, absolutely. So the book is really, I call it a guide because yes, you can pick it up and read it cover to cover, and it includes a ton of stories and a really nice journey from page 1 to the end of the book. But I think it's also a guide because you can open up to any one of those chapters and really dig in. So there's a chapter on goal setting. There's a chapter, of course, on confidence. And whether you've read the whole book and then you want to go back and use it as a resource, you'll hear these very vulnerable, sometimes self-deprecating stories of my mishaps in my life and how those instances really served me and how I grew as a result. So I think a lot of us lack confidence because we're so afraid of messing up. You know, what if it goes wrong? What if somebody laughs at me? What if my Aunt Judy thinks that what I'm trying is stupid? And it's like, you know, why are we caring so much about what other people think? That's really a major blocker in increasing our confidence, is worrying about others. And so inside this book, you can read these stories of how I've grown as an individual. You can read the stories of people I've interviewed on the Leadership is Female podcast and how the tipping point in their career was when they found their voice and grew their confidence and showed up and were themselves in these meetings and in business, and how that led to their achievements. And then also research to back it up. And there's exercises in the book. There's really important questions that you can ask yourself that will help you to grow personally as well. So it was an incredible process to put it all together. And really, you know, Steve, my goal has been like, man, can this book, if it can help just one person, you know, live the life that they are dreaming of, then I have done my job, and I'd be thrilled.
Oh, I absolutely love that. And I was noticing here on Amazon, I'm still trying to find your book, but I was noticing here on Amazon, you have your own personal Major League Baseball card. That's kind of cool too.
I do. Yeah. So the book comes out at the end of March, beginning of April. So it's not quite available yet. It'll be available for another pre-sale very soon. So I'm working with the publisher to get that up online about a month before its big debut. But yeah, when I was GM, I was selected to be part of the Allen and Ginter baseball card set. And what that set is, it's by Topps. Anyone who knows anything about baseball or card collecting knows that Topps is the original or one of the most popular when it comes to card collecting. And annually, they do a set, they call it Allen and Ginter. And what they do is they select essentially, now we would call them influencers, but people who aren't on the field, but who are having an influence on the game of baseball. So I was selected to be part of that set in, I think it was 2019. And another person that was in that set was Gary Vaynerchuk. If anyone knows who he is, he's been kind of a marketing, mogul genius, and now he's in the sports world. But he really brought back a huge emphasis on baseball card selling and trading, and on how you could make money in that industry. And it resuscitated the baseball card industry. So he's in that same deck with me. So I still get cards in the mail with return address envelopes for people asking for my signature. And it's a pretty cool claim to fame.
That is so cool. What a fun thing. So what was it like being the not only first, but obviously then also only GM in a very much boys club kind of a thing?
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. So I talk about this a lot, no surprise, because it took a lot of confidence to not only earn that role, but succeed in that role. And one of the things that I talk about pretty often is when a visiting baseball team came to town, it was my job to go in and welcome them to town. The baseball schedule is insanely busy. You're playing in a city one night, and then the whole team is on a plane, first flight out that next morning, flying to a new city, getting to that stadium. The clubbies unpacking their gear, the guys are showering, getting warmed up, and then they're playing again that night. It is a wild ride. And part of my role was not only getting our team around safely and a myriad of other things, but I also had to welcome the visiting team when they arrived. And because of what I just described, when those guys showed up, they're tired. Oftentimes they're grumpy if the travel day didn't go as planned. And I have to say, hey, welcome to our city. We can't wait to play you. Our fans are excited. If there's anything you need while you're in town, let me know. But the problem with that was that every other GM they had seen for the last 20 years in every single city, 30 clubs in AAA baseball, every single other GM is a man. So when I showed up in the clubhouse, which is their space, it's their locker room, when I showed up, I looked a little bit different than what they were used to seeing. And I had to use some of the confident behaviors that I teach in order to breach that door jam and get in that locker room and say hello. So here I was, telling my clubby, hey, text me when the team arrives. I'd gather my business cards from my office. I'd go down the stairs and I would stand outside that door jam and say, okay, 3, 2, 1, go. And as soon as I got to go, I'd open the door, walk in, identify the manager, walk straight to him, hand him my business card. Hey, I'm Emily. I'm the GM. Very clear about my title. I'm the GM. Welcome to our city. We're thrilled to play you. How was your travel day? And break that ice. And it wasn't an easy introduction. People might think, what was so hard? All you had to do was say hello. I'd be so pumped to meet these people. But if you think about those circumstances, the fatigue of the team, the fact that all they had seen before me was a guy, they would think if I didn't put out my business card and introduce myself to them, They'd think, one, I was in the wrong place. Two, I was a player's wife. What was I doing in their clubhouse? There was a whole bunch of scenarios that ran through their head and my head on how that would go. But practicing that 3, 2, 1, go, doing that countdown, going through that door jam and saying hello, it got easier and easier and easier. And my confidence grew for both my role, that activity, my space in baseball as a leader as a whole, all because of that very seemingly simple activity, but pushing myself to get through that tough situation, grew my confidence to be better at my job and be better in the industry.
I love that. So for people who want to go deeper with you, I mean, of course, obviously they can get the book when it's available. They can listen to the Leadership is Female podcast, but are there opportunities for them to work with you or do coaching with you or stuff?
Yeah. So reach out to me on Instagram at Emily Janson or on LinkedIn, Emily Janson. It's Janson. And I work with companies and employee resource groups, and I'd be so thrilled to come into your company, do a keynote on confidence. More confident employees change the game. They bring their authentic selves to work. They are not conflict avoidant. They will engage in productive, meaningful conflict with their colleagues. They're higher achievers. I mean, having more confident employees benefits your bottom line. It also, I go beyond the scope of just corporate performance and also talk about that individual as a person outside of the workplace. Because if we have well-rounded, happy, goal-directed employees, we are living in a business that has longevity, that our people are fulfilled. And, not only is that filling our bank accounts, but I think it's fulfilling people in their lives. So I'm thrilled to come in and do a keynote. And then I also can do some additional breakout sessions and really zone in with those individuals over time on building their confidence, building some different skill sets, coaching, intention. It's so much fun. And, the results are in. People are getting tremendous benefit from these conversations and this work. So if you're interested in that, it sounds appealing, please reach out to me. I'd love to have a conversation and see if this is something that could work out and benefit you in your life.
That is so amazing. Give us your LinkedIn profile or your URL one more time, please.
Yeah. So just look up Emily, EMILY JAENSON, and you'll find me. I also have a website, my first and last name. The book is called Let's Go, A Guide to Increasing Your Confidence. Pop that name in your browser, something will come up, and we will get connected.
I love it. Thank you so much for being a guest here on our show today, Emily.
My pleasure. Thank you, Steve. Appreciate you.
Maybe you need some confidence to help you really thrive in what you're doing. Maybe you need to know how to increase your confidence. What a great book to help you with that. I want you to know being confident is not being arrogant. It is truly about being the best you that you can be in this world and making the difference that only you can make. What a great way to be and live as a thriving entrepreneur. Let's jump in to our next commercial break here on Thriving Entrepreneur. Don't go away. Hi, my name is Steve Kidd. I am a third-generation minister, an international best-selling author of multiple books, and I help people write, publish, and market their books to bestseller. In fact, there are literally thousands of people that have used the system that I created to be able to write, publish, and market their books, and now they're best-selling authors. And you're next. I just wanted to come on for a minute, say hi to you, tell you a little bit about me, introduce myself, and tell you I know the world is waiting on your message, and I would be so honored to be part of sharing your message with the world. Go to AskSteveKidd.com and schedule a time to talk today. This is Steve. Welcome back. Thanks for listening to Thriving Entrepreneur today as we talk about confidence to thrive. How can you have the confidence to really truly thrive in everything that you do in your life and business? We've talked about transferring from one company or one type of work to another type of work that is truly yours. We've talked about a guide to how to increase your confidence. And now let's look at an entrepreneur who is confidently helping the people that he works with because he's confident in what he does. I think it's a great way to wrap up our show and a great way for you to see some insight in how to be a thriving entrepreneur. So with that said, let's jump in to our last guest. Join me in welcoming Ben Hakama. Hey, Ben, how you doing today?
Great. Great to talk to you.
Absolutely. So start us off. Tell us a little bit about you and how you show up in the world.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm Ben Hakama, founder of Illuminate Wealth Management, and we launched January 1st, 2020, right before COVID. Great time to start a business, and I'm sure we can talk about that. But we work with individuals, families, and a lot of small business owners who I like to call reluctant entrepreneurs on everything that money touches, and so their business and everything about personal finance and everything else. And as we kind of walk through, I think the biggest thing that we try to bring to the table is a kind of balance. A lot of people have really strong opinions about money. Money is an emotional topic. And as we kind of look at it, we don't want to go to the extremes one way or the other. So whether that's on a too much savings or too much spending or too much worrying about money or not enough, somewhere in the middle, and try to kind of bring back people to center and let money just be a part of their life, but not run their life.
I love that. So, obviously you didn't know the pandemic was coming up, but did what you were doing, did it work okay going through the pandemic, or did you then just have kind of like a pause for a couple of years?
Good question. So I always had this plan to have a virtual firm that we could work with clients around the country and do things more using technology than I think most of the financial services industry does. So just kind of lucked in that I already had the systems built and kind of set client expectations. And then, when you go through periods of time, whether it's something crazy like the pandemic or looking back, great financial crisis, 15 years ago, things like that, in periods of turmoil or when people seek out advice and seek out help. So it actually worked out really well to launch the business then. I wish I had maybe 6 months more before everything went crazy just to get, system set up exactly how I wanted it, things like that. But ultimately worked out overall, I think.
I love that. So, what is the ideal situation for a person to come to your company and need your help?
So my favorite people to work with, honestly, are who I like to call the reluctant entrepreneurs. It's the people that are, they're in a service-based industry. They probably worked in the corporate world for a while, and they said, I have these great ideas. I have these things I want to implement. I want to serve my clients in this way, but I don't have any other place I can go. I don't want to go work for somebody else. I like to say I'm unemployable now, having, started my own company. I can't go work for anybody else. I think a lot of people feel that way. And so they go in, but they're doing it maybe to start a business, but it's more about serving the people they want to serve. And so the money aspect, the CFO, how do I deal with payroll and budgeting, and how does my business finance impact my personal finance? How are those integrated? None of those are really on their mind. And so then they start, being successful at their business. They've got some revenue. They can hit payroll if they've got employees, but they just say, I feel like there's something missing, and maybe again, kind of a lack of balance where I'm doing all this stuff, but I don't know if it's worth it. I had a client who came to me and she said, I just need you to tell me what I need to earn so I can reach all my goals, and I'll go do that. I know I can sell. I just don't know when enough is enough. I don't know when I've hit the number or whatever else. And that's who I love to work with, because we can integrate both the business side, do bookkeeping, do payroll, do the tax management and the tax planning, all those fun things. At least for me, they're fun. But on the flip side, actually make it meaningful. Who cares how much money you make if it's not impacting your life in a positive way and impacting the people you care about?
So was your answer to that person there's never such a thing as enough, just do more.
No, that is definitely not the answer. Definitely not the answer. We focused on both on a personal cash flow side. So let's figure out money coming in, money going out, just from a normal business perspective. Let's also get your books in order on the business side. Let's integrate that together. Let's talk about what life could look like if it all worked the way that you wanted. And, it's a number that honestly was smaller than she expected that I told her she needed. If you just get above this number per year on revenue, and you keep expenses in check, here's what this can mean. And all your basic goals can be met, and you can save your kids' college, all that great stuff. That's freeing that now she gets to decide, okay, as she approaches that number every year, do I want to keep pushing? Do I want to put in more hours, get more? Or am I willing to take a step back, or maybe not spend so much time at the office and spend more time with my family? Because that's what really matters to me. Whatever that looks like, it gives her the freedom and flexibility to kind of move between those. And that's what we try to bring to our clients is, again, just understanding the balance. Life is short, and I love what I do. I love building a business and being an entrepreneur. But at the same time, if that's my whole identity and there's nothing else there, I think something's missing. And so that's what we try to talk to our clients about.
So you're dealing all the time with people's finances, and all the misconceptions that are out there and everything. But what is the one thing that people kind of in general have as a belief that you just really wish you could just, I don't know, throw out a belief nuclear bomb and eliminate from the world?
Yes, there are two things that come to mind. I'll start with my favorite, which every new client, whether you're a business owner, whether you're about to retire, maybe you're just starting out your career, whatever it is, I always start with new clients what I call the $1 billion question. And what that basically is if you woke up tomorrow and you had $1 billion and no one was hurt in doing that, and nothing's worse in the world, but you just have $1 billion. Talk to me about what life looks like. What's the same and what's different? What's the first thing you're going to do? How are you going to spend your time, your money? Are you going to go to work that day? Are you going to quit your job? Are you going to start a new business? Are you going to, pursue a law degree because you've always wanted to go to law school? Whatever that looks like. Are you going to set up a charitable foundation? Let's talk about, if money's not on the table, what does life look like? And then as we kind of talk through that, maybe it's a 5-minute, maybe it's a 30-minute conversation I have whenever we have a new client. We talk through that. Well, what I'm hearing is all the things that are actually important to you once money's not there. And so now, okay, we all have this limiting factor of money being there, but let's strategize together on how we can incorporate the things that you really care about into this limiting factor of the money, and let's think bigger. And so to answer your question as succinctly as I can, money's limiting, but I believe that most people have it be too limiting of a factor. Obviously, you need to have a certain amount of income or wealth just to get by and put food on the table for your family, things like that. But once you've kind of crossed that threshold, there's a lot of flexibility and a lot of ways you can structure your life so that money's either the motivating factor or it actually allows you to do the things that you really want.
I love that. The thing that would probably make you pull your hair out, as I do sometimes love mindset wise to work with some of my clients and have them do the Brewster's Millions test. Are you familiar with that movie?
No, I'm not.
Oh, so in Brewster's Millions, he has to spend, and it depends on which version of it, because there's actually been 8 different ones that have been made over the course of the last 100 years. But the most recent one, he has to spend $30 million in 30 days with nothing left to show for it.
That's right. I didn't know the name of it, but I've heard of it.
Yeah. Because it's really interesting to see what kind of things and what kind of a mindset a person has around money. But like I said, I know that'll make you as a financial person pull your hair out, but it's a really fun mindset kind of a situation. I love that. So where do you usually start? I mean, what's kind of step one in getting your financial foundation set right?
Mm-hmm. It all starts with knowing where you are. How do you know if you're going on a trip? How do you know where you're going if you don't know where you are? And which way do I go? North, south, east, west? And so just having an understanding, what do I have? What are assets, liabilities? What are the things that I have, and what do I owe? Where's hopefully you can get a handle on cash flow, money coming in, money going out. Understanding that basic level of whether it's a business or a personal household, where are we to start allows you to figure out what's the low hanging fruit. Where do I knock off some of these debts or add a little bit more income that I can have, whatever that looks like for the specific situation. You have to have the nice starting point. Now, I am, and I know this is self-serving a little bit, but I am a big believer in having a third party that you can talk to and bounce ideas off of. I actually have my own financial planner, and it's not because I don't know what I'm doing. It's because I think there's value in having somebody who doesn't have the same biases and vested interest in my own life, who can come in and talk to my wife and I about, okay, here's risk tolerance differences, or, my wife is saying this thing and I'm saying this over here. Let's bring that together, whether it's a financial planner, a therapist, a pastor, whoever it is that can kind of help you invest the time to say, I'm going to be an unbiased third party and help you with that, especially if you're married or have a business partner, whatever it is. I think that's super valuable. But you got to know, again, going back to your question, you have to have the foundation at the beginning to then know where you're going and where you're going to build off of that.
I remember back, and I mean, this was way back in high school in the 80s, but I remember going through accounting class. I actually really loved accounting class, but the hardest thing for all of us to get our minds around was the difference between credits and debits, because we think typically when we start out as debits being debt and credits being money we've got in. Do you find that still is an issue, or, because of debit cards, are people pretty clear on that now?
I think people have no idea. Most people listening probably have no idea what you just said. And so, and I say that just because there's so much about the financial services industry, that's about adding confusion and helping you feel shame, and not about making things easy to digest and easy to understand. And so whether it's debits and credits, or it's, what's an asset or a liability, there's just a lot of terms out there that just mean nothing to the general public. And it's really hard if you either are not really interested to dive in and learn everything, or have somebody to lean on. It's really hard to navigate through the whole financial system, because everything's built to sell something or make you feel shame and buy this product over here, whatever it is, through that whole process. So I'm glad you brought that up. I think every business, every person who loves what they do, you've got this inside information that you know what the terms are, and you like to talk about it, but most people just don't understand at the same level. So that's why I like to get really basic when I talk to my clients, and don't worry about, do you know what a debit is versus a credit? Let's just get down to what really matters, and the simple stuff, the same way that everyone else talks. Don't worry if it doesn't fit what an MBA, handbook says that you should do.
I'd love to ask you another question, and that is, can you explain to us the difference, or maybe even more importantly, what's more important, cash flow or actual profit?
Great question. I think it really depends on the situation, the business. It is probably not one size fits all. Both really matter in that you need cash, you need something you can do something with. Profit matters more from a tax perspective. And so from a tax management, the way we're kind of thinking about a business, what you're going to pay taxes on, depending on the corporate structure, the tax structure, profits are going to be primarily what's taxed. And so if you can lower profits but still have cash, that's ideal to lower your tax bill. But you can't spend profit, you can spend cash. And so as we're relating your business to what it impacts you personally, cash is king. And then you get to do something with it. Now, I know a lot of business owners that are super risky in their business, and then their personal life, they take no risk at all, and they want to have a whole lot of cash. And so again, we're talking about balance. Let's maybe not take as much risk in your business. We want to avoid the blow up, but let's do something with that cash, whether it's invest in other industries, maybe it's real estate, maybe it's buy stocks and bonds in an investment portfolio, maybe it's just invest in your life or your education, whatever the situation is. Again, cash is the king to make that happen. Profits are really more of a tax term, at least in my perspective.
So for the people who would love to have you be that third party to come in and kind of help them get things straight or keep them straight, how does a person work with you?
Yeah, we have clients in right now about 17 states around the U.S. and are able to work all across the country. And best way is just to kind of reach out through illuminatewm.com. We also have a lot of blog posts and different things that you can turn to and learn a little bit on your own without having to hire us, but always happy to talk to people about situation, where things are, both personally and if you got a business, also the business side.
And if you would, just before I let you go, give us some, just like a few words of encouragement that this mystery of money is something that is actually very solvable.
To me, it's all about time horizon. So it's really hard to make major impacts today for just tomorrow. But if you can step back and again, I think with the help of a financial planner can help with this, take a longer view, a 5-year, a 10-year, a multi-decade view of whether it's money or anything else in your life. It's crazy how big that impact can be. You talk about compound interest, you talk about just little things you can take today that compound over time. That's where all the power is, but it takes the discipline. And so once you figure it out though, and once you have the right people in your corner, I really do believe, the sky's the limit, and we all have our limiting factors and our biases on this is what's possible. But I really think if you look at the numbers and look at the math, when you are thinking in a decades, not just what happens next week, it's incredible what's possible.
And give us your URL one more time.
That is illuminatewm.com. So Illuminate Wealth Management.
I love it. Well, Ben, thanks so much for spending some time with us here on the show today.
Thanks for having me on.
If we fail to plan, we're planning to fail. I really do hope that you have a great, really solid financial plan and that you have somebody who's a real expert at it helping you with it, because you do need the confidence in that area, especially so that you can really thrive in all that you're meant to do and all that you're going to do in this world, because you are uniquely brilliant. You were created for a purpose, and the world needs you. That's right. We need you to be the best, most competent version of who you can be. And we need you to share that with us. Share it through your business, share it through your words, and absolutely, yes, I know you've heard me talk about it before, share it in a book. Make the difference that only you can make while it's called today, so that you can live every day of your life as a thriving entrepreneur. Until we're together again next time, I hope that you have an amazing and wonderful week.
Thanks for listening to Thriving Entrepreneur today. If you want to get your question answered, send an email to questions@wehelpyouthrive.com. We look forward to you joining us again next time.
Hi, my name is Steve Kidd. I am a third-generation minister, an international best-selling author of multiple books, and I help people write, publish, and market their books to bestseller. In fact, there are literally thousands of people that have used the system that I created to be able to write, publish, and market their books, and now they're best-selling authors. And you're next. I just wanted to come on for a minute, say hi to you, tell you a little bit about me, introduce myself, and tell you I know the world is waiting on your message, and I would be so honored to be part of sharing your message with the world. Go to AskSteveKidd.com and schedule a time to talk today.